All right, guys, today is Friday, December 17th, 2021. Today marks day 3 of my new 30-day thrash. I'm putting in on my wife's 55 Chevy 4-door sedan here. So if you've been following along, I've been working on fitting the doors to the car, gapping them, and then once I have them where I want them, drilling and pinning the hinges so it makes it easier to put them on after the car's painted. Anyway, so where I left off last night, if you caught the video I posted last night, I have this close, but I've got more finish work to do. Now, luckily, last night, when I quit for the night, I pushed my 55 hardtop back in, but I got it as far over to the right as I could because I knew it was going to rain today, so I got the 4-door over a little bit. Now, I've got a piece of plywood over there that I am going to wrap an old comforter on. I'm going to wrap the plywood up in that comforter, and I'm actually going to set that plywood up here against my tire and up the side of the cowl here. Now that comforter, it'll be doubled over, so it's pretty good thickness to keep from hurting the paint. But just in case I knock the 4-door over into the hardtop, it won't get my rim or get my cowl here on the paint. So it's what I'm going to have to do because it is raining like crazy outside, as you can see. So I will not be pushing the hardtop out in that. So anyway, it's a little bit chilly in here, but I think I'll be able to get some stuff done. I may go ahead and open up my door to the house and let some of the warmth out here. I don't think it's cold enough yet to fire the heater up, but it's probably those days, they're coming. But anyway, the plan for today is to get the door, the driver's side door, finished and aligned, gapped, and hinges drilled and done. At that point, I did bring the rear door in for the driver's side here. This door did not fit this car worth of crap before, so of course I didn't mess with it, I just removed it, but when it was on the car, when the car was together, it fit pretty bad. So I know this one is probably going to end up taking a lot more work than it did on that door, which I put a full day in on that door over there, and it's still not done. Now, I screwed up. Last night, I should have took the time and removed that door because now that I've got this close to the hardtop, I can't get the door off the car. So the good thing is it's probably going to take the rest of the day to do this door, and I'll at least be able to get started on this door, maybe get it hung at least, because I have to spend an hour cleaning up all the body, the nut plates in the body, clean up the bolts and all that kind of crap. But anyway, so hopefully I can get that door started, and then tomorrow there's not going to be any rain, so I can push the hardtop out, and I will be able to remove that door for when I do some welding work on that door. So I'm hoping it all works out. I'm trying to choreograph, I guess you could kind of say, I don't know, trying to choreograph how to go about this. Now, something that's kind of nice, I don't mean it bad. My wife's going to her mother's this weekend. She likes to go up there at least once or twice a month, help around the house, clean and that kind of stuff, which, I don't know, I think both of them just sit on the couch and Facebook all night, which is fine. But anyway, so she's going to go to her mother's this weekend, so she's not going to be here. Now, the thing about that is, when I'm here by myself with the dog, I can come out here and work, and when you're trying to fit doors and stuff on a car, there's a lot of beating that goes on and banging and clanging. And, if she's in the house trying to relax or trying to sleep in the evening, that's the last thing you want to be doing out here if you want to stay alive. You know what I mean? You guys are married, know this. But, my house is connected to the garage. The bedroom is like just right inside past the laundry room. So anyway, she's going to be gone this weekend. So this is going to actually get me caught up where I need to be on this car, because I feel at this point I'm already behind, and I just started this 30-day new thrash. I only got a half a day in on this door yesterday. Had I had a full day, this door would have been done, and I'd have been starting on this one. So this will get me caught up with her not being here, because I'll be able to come out here and work till midnight, 1 o'clock, whenever I want. It depends on how far my body will let me go, we'll say. This may surprise a lot of guys, but the reason that I quit every evening around 5 p.m. is because when my wife gets off work and comes home, I cook our meals 99.9% of the time. It's not that my wife doesn't know how to cook, which she will tell you that she doesn't know how to cook, but she probably does. So I grew up in a restaurant. My parents had a restaurant when I was a kid, so I'm kind of a little bit on the picky side when it comes to food. So I do the cooking. Now, cooking to me is something that I like to do. It's another one of my little hobby passions that I like to do. I have kind of kicked around the idea, and I want to know what you guys think, which, I mean, really, in the reality is, doesn't really matter. I'm going to do what I want anyway, but some of you guys already know this, but I have a couple of dishes that I make that are kind of quick, but they're really, really good. My wife never complains about my cooking. I'm not saying I'm a chef. I'm just, but I have kind of thought about doing a video of a couple of those dishes that I make, and it might interest some of you guys. I don't know. They're really, really fast meals, and they're rather on the cheap side. Anyway, I thought about doing a couple of cooking videos. Now I realize I don't have a cooking channel on YouTube. I'm a car builder, but I'm not talking about doing a whole bunch of cooking videos, just a couple, because there's really only a couple of dishes that I kind of have come up with. But anyway, so I may do that in the future. It just depends. But anyway, with her being gone this weekend, I feel like that's going to get me caught up. It may actually get me ahead because I'll be able to put more time in out here beating on the car. It's going to suck for my dog. She's not going to get her beauty sleep she usually gets because I'll be out here beating on stuff. But it is what it is, you know what I mean? But anyway, I'm going to get started, guys. Well, I was going to take a big piece of plywood and wrap it up in a comforter and lean it up against the car, and then I worried about the plywood sliding down and scuffing up the paint on the hardtop, so I took a couple of these rubber floor mats, stacked up two there and two there, just in case the front of this car goes over against the hardtop while I'm over there working on it. I have casters on the front of this that rotate 360 degrees, so they don't roll superb, so it'll pretty much stay where it's at unless I really start shoving on something. But the rear, the fixtures, the casters are fixed straight, so the front is the only thing that turns. So anyway, this rear is really not going to go anywhere. But I'm going to go ahead and take, I've got a little thin piece of plywood down there, and I'm going to put it on the caster here. I'm going to turn the wheels toward the hardtop, but I'm going to put the plywood there so it doesn't really get up against there. Because, when I go to put the 2x4 in here, if I have to tweak this door, the car will try to go that way, but I will try to do what I can to save it because of the dang rain. I mean, you can obviously hear that now. It is coming down, so I can't take the hardtop outside. All right, so I got the door pretty much set where it needs to be, and now I have to do some grinding and welding and grinding and filing, which I kind of knew I was going to have to anyway. But it's not as bad as, like that back door back there. So anyway, I got it pretty much set up. The line is even across here. I've got the same amount of gap right here with the B-pillar. And this gap is pretty nice. It's actually nice all the way around. It's the same size gap all the way around. Now, funny enough, I've got that lower door hinge moved as far in as it will go. It moved as far in until it stopped. This is not perfectly in line. It's out just a little bit. So, not quite sure. I may just leave it because it's pretty much as good as it's going to get. So I tightened up this gap here to match the other side. So the gaps are the same side to side, and this is pretty even. When you're setting your door up there, make sure your door rolls into your cowl even right here. So that cowl, it has a little kick up to it, but just this lower edge, make sure it's even with it. Anyway, so I'm happy with pretty much all the bottom all the way around. I don't even have to adjust the corner down there. But this is an issue. Now, I don't have my stainless trim on here yet because I can't get it on there. I don't have enough room. I'm going to have to grind this until it opens up. But I've got a decent gap here. It's a little on the tight side, but then it really gets tight down here. So I'm going to have to go in there and grind this. I'm going to put a piece of tape on here to the line that I want. And then I'll draw a fine tip Sharpie right on the edge of that tape, and then I'll pull the tape off, and then I will grind to that Sharpie line. Then it's going to split it on the folded edge for the skin, and then I'll go back and clamp it all back together with some old vice grips, and I'll weld it all and pull the clamps off one at a time and weld, pull another clamp off and weld. Anyway, when that is finally all tack welded back together, I will then go back and I will grind it about 90, a little over 90%, and then I'll finish it off with a file, a big metal file, going up and down, and make sure I try to get it pretty straight. So anyway, I do have to adjust that. Now here is what's funny, because this is why every car is different. This is the way the technology was back then. It wasn't perfect. This line, if you follow it below the drip rail to the top of the door, see how it's kind of wide, and then it starts getting thinner. So it's really thin right here. So I don't know that I want to take that much time and go through here and cut this to fit and then re-weld all that. I'm just going to pretty much wait till I get there. It might be good enough for me. I think what I've decided to do, before I cut this part of the door, I'm going to go ahead and get the other rear door hung on the car and get it adjusted. And I'm going to see how those line up. I still need to go find my divider pieces that go in here, filler piece, and I need to make sure that that line follows through. But, if the door is high here and the other one doesn't go up as high as that one, it's going to look funny. So then I will have to cut that. But that one's pretty much eye level when you walk up to the car. It's pretty much eye level. So it really needs to be fixed. Now, I've stated it before, I didn't want these gaps to be 100% perfection. I just wanted them nice. I don't want to have paint chipping. So it's kind of a can of worms when you do something like this, but it's just the way it's got to be done. Here's another thing that it kind of drives me nuts about sedans in particular. On these sedan cars, the door frame, it's usually, well, every one of them I've seen, it is in from the A-pillar. So the problem is when you put your stainless trim out here, it has that little hump on it that matches your belt line on a 210. It's always lower than this piece. So if you brought this door out to meet it, you would have one hellacious gap right here. So I don't really want to mess with that. It's probably one of them deals where it's pretty much good enough. I'm going to go ahead and put a socket in up here and adjust that. Well, not in the helicoil box, but so I'm going to try to get this door frame out even right here. So I'm going to do this number right here. Needs a little bit more than that. It's kind of wild when you do one adjustment on a door like this in particular. It might change other stuff, so you've got to pay attention to what you're doing, because it will change some stuff around. It really ain't moving off of that. I'll have to give her a big. Actually, I want to use a little piece of wood down here. I say it's little. It's actually bigger than what I needed. It ain't gonna work. I thought I had a short one here. This will work right here perfectly. So we're gonna do that number. Still in line. I didn't quite get it out all the way. I want to try to get that even now. I'm still got to put my stainless trim on here, the A-pillar trim, so it's going to need to be a little bit higher. I'll end up smashing my fingers trying to do this and hold a GoPro at the same time. Sometimes you got to get rough with that stuff. I got a little bit more. It's always going to be in down here. It's just the way it is. But anytime you tweak on your door with something, you need to check it and make sure you didn't, change something else, which it is in right here now. So I'm going to overbend this door post a little bit. And then I'm going to have to put my block of wood down there and tweak that again. I've already done it once, but now I get to do it again. But I got to get this done first. Sometimes you chase your tail with this stuff. And when I'm pushing on the door, I'm trying to put my leg right here in the, kind of about in the middle-ish, and then I put my whole body in it. It's kind of keeping me from hurting my back. Now, if you go past too far, it'll actually bend in pretty easy with a hammer, so, or a mallet, so not too bad of a problem there. So that is not bad. It still needs a little bit more for my taste. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and cut the GoPro off because this is probably gonna go on for another 30 minutes. All right, guys, so I finally found my, I don't know what this is, protractor, compass, whatever, I don't know. Anyway, so I finally found this thing. It was actually in my house in the drawer, and I usually, well, I've always kept it in that drawer over there with all my writing things, but anyway, luckily I found it. So anyway, I've kind of set everything, and I've got it, I matched it up with the other side, so basically just let it follow that A-pillar. And that's how I drew my pencil line here for what I'm getting ready to cut here. Anyway, so it's thin at the top, thick at the bottom, so I'm going to cut that. I'm actually going to use a 2-inch 36 grit roll-lock disc on there on that angle grinder, and I'm just going to grind that, you know, until I get it to the line. Now it's going to split that, so that piece is going to come apart on it. So I'm going to end up taking some, you know, little vice grips. I showed this in a video the other day. I'll put a whole bunch of vice grips on there to get it back so it's the same thickness. If you're gapping your door, be sure and clamp that skin piece on the back to it pretty tight, because if you do not, and you just kind of hold it up there and weld it, it'll end up being thin and thick on your jam edges. So be sure you clamp that down. Anyway, I'm glad I found that. It just kind of made it a little easier. I made 2 attempts with my tape trying to get it. I was trying to draw, you know, get it done with tape, and I couldn't quite get it. This little hiccup right here in the bead is what was kind of throwing it off. So anyway, I'm glad I found that. Anyway, so I got to do that, but I'm going to show you these gaps now. So I've actually got the lower hinge on the door as far in as it'll go. That'll come in and out, and it'll come up and down as well, but it is all the way in as far as it's going to go. So it is bottomed out. Now this door is actually sticking off from the rocker a little bit, just a little bit. It's actually more than I would like. I'm not sure if I can slap spoon that down. I might be able to do that. Actually, that's probably what it needs. This might be bent actually, because it's perfect to right here. So anyway, I'm going to slap spoon that in. Oh yeah, it is curved out a little bit looking down it. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to slap spoon that a little bit. And anyway, this line, when you get down and look, is super nice. I even have a pretty good clearance here. It does get just a hair tight right here on this, but it's still good enough clearance for no paint chipping. That's when I stated yesterday in the video, I'm not going for perfection show car gaps. I'm just going for nicer looking gaps and where I don't have to worry about paint chipping. You know, that is at the bottom of the car, so I'm really not going to worry about it. This line here is super nice, comes up and over. This line is perfect. It's the same width. So this is even. Make sure when you're doing this that your door is even off of your rocker or your cowl right here where this kicks down. You want to make sure that flows right to it evenly. Now, here's another tip I'll give you, which it's kind of obvious to some guys, and you'd probably figure it out if you got to this point, but when you put your hood on one of these cars, you can put it on without the front fenders. So you could technically put it on first if you wanted to before you messed with putting your fenders on, because all you're wanting to do is find that line across here that's good. And the hood is going to be the same width as this cowl, so your line is even. So the thickness of that, your fender to your cowl for your hood, is dependent on this one. So if this is really wide, your fender is going to be really wide if you want that line to match. Now, if your door's wide and then your fender's thin, you're going to have a kick in there. So be sure and get a gap that you're comfortable with here on the door first. This is very important, because then when you put your fender on, it's going to be perfect. You don't have to worry about the hood. The hoods are always even here. Now, I say that meaning all the ones I have done, it has been exactly even with that. I haven't had a hood that's wider. I'm not saying there's not one out there, especially aftermarket. I have never messed with an aftermarket 55 hood, so I have no experience in an aftermarket one, but the original hoods that I have messed with has been perfectly even. So you can technically adjust your hood, get it on there and everything first before messing with anything. You just want to make sure, basically from here to here, because this will be kind of odd on your cowl panel here, which it is adjustable as well. But anyway, this is the biggest thing you want to line up right here and over here. But anyway, you know, you can leave your hood up, you know, with the hinges, with the springs, leave your hood up, and then you can finish putting all your fenders and stuff on. So just something you can do, but be sure you've got a nice gap here at your door first, because that gap dictates what your fender is going to be. So you'll see these cars at shows all the time. They'll have you'll be able to stick your finger down there in one side and the other side will be thin. So that is probably one of the most important parts of a lineup on the door on a Tri-5 is right here, or 5 and 6 especially. But anyway, I just noticed something here. So there is lead right here, and that looks like a hole right there, but it doesn't really look like a rust hole. It's kind of strange. Let's investigate. Oh, yeah. That is exactly why I do not like lead. So there is no rust hole. It's just there was a hole in the lead and it has rust under it. So I'm going to have to go in there and grind all that lead out of that. Dang it. I'm glad I seen that now instead of getting, you know, primer and paint and everything on top of it and then that messing up later. So somebody had stated in one of my videos a long time ago, there's nothing wrong with lead. Yeah, there is in my book. Both my A-pillars were cracked. Moisture got down in there and rusted in there. So, you know, whatever. All right, so now it's grind time. Yay! I got a few clamps on there. Actually, I need more, but I'm going to start tacking it all up here, and then I'll go through and use some of those clamps down here because I don't have any more small ones. You know, I got it ground in to my line, and when I closed the door and checked it, it looked really nice. So now I got to weld it and grind it again, and then file it. But it's worth it in the end. All right, so this is totally unrelated to my door fitting project, but I was digging through a box of wiring and gauge parts a while ago, and this is a triple gauge pod that I am going to use on this car. These used to be my dad's, and they were in a 56 Chevy he had there for a while, but anyway, they were hanging up in his garage, and I ended up getting them for free to put them in this car. So anyway, I cleaned the chrome up on these a long time ago, but anyway, I had welded, when I was doing my floor pan repair, I actually welded 2 little square nuts up in the bottom of the dash, so this will actually bolt in with some machine screws to the bottom of the dash. It'll be, I think, right here. So, you know, triple gauge pod, that's what some guys put underneath their dashes. Anyway, this is a Sun Pro set, not very expensive, but they look pretty new. Even after cleaning them up, they look pretty new now. The temp gauge is right here. It's a capillary tube. I've got it off in there. I had to have the gauges out of it to be able to get up in there easily with a, you know, screwdriver, be able to screw the bracket to the bottom of the dash. But anyway, this is what I think is kind of neat. Now, back in probably early 2000s, I was on vacation, me and my wife, we went with my mom and dad. I can't remember if we went to Vegas or Florida. It was 2 different vacations we did. Anyway, we stopped at a truck stop to use the bathroom one time because we drove both times. But anyway, I found these gauge covers in that truck stop. And anyway, I thought they were kind of cool, and they were only, the price is still on them. They were $2.99 each. It's just a little plastic cover that you would like probably silicone on or double-side tape or whatever. But anyway, they had this little brow on them, and if you're a 55 Chevy owner, you know right away what I thought when I saw these. I just never have used them. They've just been sitting in their packages. I never did use them on my gauges like I intended, but I'm going to use them now. So what does that remind you of just in smaller scale if you're a 55 Chevy owner? Does that look like a headlight bezel to you from a 55? How cool is that? Anyway, it's for a Kenworth. And if anybody's else interested in getting these, which some guys are probably going to think it's cheesy, but I think it's kind of cool. It's a detail thing, but it looks like the brand is Grand Central and the part number is 68390. But anyway, back then I gave $2.99. Yeah, there's the price tag right there, $2.99. But I've had those for a long time, man. But anyway, they basically go on the gauges. See if I can do this one-handed. They'll go on the gauges kind of like that. See if I can get the other one on here. Kind of hard to do one-handed and hold a GoPro. Anyway, they'll go on there about like that. I think it kind of gives the old cheap-looking triple gauge pod a little bit of pizzazz, in a way. But I think it's awesome. It matches the headlight bezel. But anyway, I thought you guys might enjoy that. All right, so I got the A-pillar stainless trim on, bolted on, and put some painter's blue tape on it to protect it because I'm getting ready to weld that where I got it clamped. So I don't want any welding spatter to get stuck to that stainless A-pillar trim. So anyway, the other thing I'm doing, the posts on the doors here, you're supposed to have rubber bumpers. There's 3 in the top of the 4 doors, one there, and one there. And it's a rubber cushion and it has a screw in it. Now these are originals that I pulled out, but I have noticed that, because I had some over in my slide tray that still had the screws down in the old ones, but there's 2 different kinds of screws I have found here. This is a regular old Phillips pan head. This is a countersink Phillips with they both have really small heads on them. But anyway, they're designed to bolt on. Now, when I took the originals out of this car, they had number 8 regular old coarse Phillips screws in the front ones, but these had the fine threads in them. So I just tried to run an 832 tap in here because that's the size, is 832, in case you need to rethread those or whatever. Anyway, the tap's real sloppy in here, and I tried the bolt and it's real sloppy, so these really need to be welded up. But the bad part is this is full of lead right here, so that's why it stripped out on me. So I guess I'm going to have to go in here and melt the lead out and repair that. I have to weld that up, and then, I mean, that's probably going to turn into a big fiasco, but it is what it is. It doesn't surprise me. It's just stuff that happens when you're working on a car, but that may be why they had coarse Phillips screws in there. I don't know, but anyway, it's going to drive me nuts not to have the matching hardware in those 3, which what I used is an 832 countersink Allen head. It's stainless, so on final assembly of the car, I'll buff the heads of those on a buffing wheel. But also what I noticed was these new ones, the screw doesn't go as far in as an original. The original goes way down in there, and which I already stuck the screw down in this one. Anyway, that thing is really deep down in there to the flat part where the screw head goes, and on these it's like halfway. So anyway, I've put this one on here so I can test that. I can't close the door right now because I got all them clamps up there, but anyway, I'm getting ready to weld it, and then I'll push it to and see. But these are designed to cushion a little bit, so anyway, see how it goes. All right, so I went through here and tacked and tacked and tacked and tacked, you know, skipped around, and anyway, so I got a bunch of tacks here. Now, when I grind this, there's going to be some areas that I missed. There'll be little bitty holes, craters. I'll go back and re-zap those because I don't want a hole in there for moisture to get to filler or primer, you know, or something. So I'll want to make sure that's all done in steel. But you can kind of see it's just as thin as it was when it was folded over, because I used those clamps to hold it together. So if you didn't put the clamps on there and you just welded it, you'd have thin and thick edges there. But anyway, I'm letting this cool off a little bit. It's still a little warm. I'm gonna let it cool off, and then I'm gonna hit it with the grinder. And anyway, at that point I'll close it, and normally when you close it, you'll see the areas that you missed, and you'll also might see little low areas, little dips or something that you'll have to build up a few tacks in. So it doesn't really take a whole lot of time, but you know, just doing this part of the door instead of the whole door is really kind of nice. So I mean, that's pretty much it right now. And I can already tell I've got a few, you know, little curves that I need to put a couple more tack welds in to fill up. But anyway, by the time it's done, it'll have the same gap as this here. Mainly this right here is what I like to match. So, you know, your top's always kind of crazy on these things, but anyway, back to work. All right, guys, so I am pretty much done for the night. I really didn't get as far as I wanted to, but this door is pretty much done, other than I may have to work on this right here to match the top of the other door once I get it hung tomorrow. Anyway, check out that gap now after all the grinding, the filing, and rounding the edges and finishing it off with 80 on the DA. It looks awesome. Beautiful width gap down through there. Really, really happy with it, man. So this is probably going to be one of the nicest gap 4 doors in my area, but yeah, I'm still not done. I've still got loose ends on both of those doors over there to finish. Anyway, I didn't mention this so far. I keep forgetting about it, but if you'll notice, I got some paper on my wing window here. If you're doing any kind of cutting with a cutoff wheel or grinding, do not do it with glass in the car. If you're going to reuse that glass, you don't want to do that. Them sparks, the hot sparks, will actually melt into the glass. So be aware of that. You know, cover it up with tape or paper or plastic or something, or pull the glass out. This wing window assembly, the glass is really, really nice shape. I don't even think it has any bubbles in it. So I am going to reuse it. Anyway, so I've got mine covered up, but man, I'm telling you, it's quite a bit of work to do this, but it is very rewarding when you're done. I have beautiful gaps, and the doors fit the car very well. Anyway, I've got a little area right here that I need to spoon. I'm just going to slap on it a little bit here to roll that in, because when you look down the door, it does kind of kick out a little bit. So I'm going to hammer that in, and then that will get that on the rocker perfectly. That'll have that thing in a nice line down through there. But anyway, again, the only thing that I'm really not happy with is this, and more than likely, once I get that door on, I'm going to have to do something with it. But anyway, I am done for the night. So that is it for day 3 of the new 30-day thrash. Tomorrow's going to be the start of day 4. No rain tomorrow, so I'll be able to push the hardtop out in the driveway and be able to just get really carried away with this thing. I did want to get further along, but I ended up cooking dinner, and then my wife left for her mom's, and by then I was already relaxed a little bit, and I'm really sore already, so I just didn't get as far as I wanted. And it's just, sometimes it's the way it is. But I'll show you this. I've got, of course, this is all done and finished out. Of course, when I put the Z-Chrome on it, block it out, all these little scratch marks will go away. But anyway, I've rolled this edge on both sides to match the factory door. But when you look straight on, it's the same thickness as it was. So it's matched all the way top to bottom. It's not thin and thick. But anyway, these marks here are from the vice grips, clamping them on there. Now, I'll give you a tip there. Those vice grips, you don't need to really squeeze them tight to clamp that on, because you're going to end up putting little tiny dingers in there from the vice grips being too tight. A couple of mine I had a little tight, so I do feel a couple of little dingers in there, but the Z-Chrome polyester will fill that. When I block it out, it'll be perfect. So anyway, guys, I'm happy. I'm going to end the night on a good note. I'm pretty happy about that. So anyway, thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.